first off, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, I'd like to keep you on pretty regularly if I can.
So far, so good. Or we should do a, what is it, on cinema, at cinema thing. Permanent guest.
Yeah.
But not host.
Yeah.
Not co-host.
You're here. You're not a host, but you're here all the time.
Yeah, as a guest. Permanent guest.
Well, I'm going to bring in more people eventually. I think I was going to actually do one with my brother-in-law.
Oh, yeah?
Last weekend. He wasn't able to make it. He had family, I guess. I don't want to call them obligations because that makes it seem like he didn't want to do the family stuff.
There's ghetto birds.
It's racist.
Is it? Vaguely. I didn't coin it, though.
Helicopters fly everywhere in this nation, all right? Not just in the ghetto.
But they fly a lot more out here in L.A.
That's true. But yeah, he had obligations that kind of got in the way and wasn't able to do
now
recording.
Okay, so two-part question.
Mm-hmm.
Are you wanting to branch out and do interview style series or guest series, or how would you label those? Because it's good to put these things into different buckets.
Yeah.
And then also, because I'm curious, like, where does he politically align? Is he got a opposing, or do you guys have similar ideas?
He's kind of all over the place. I mean, generally speaking, we agree on a lot. But he will tell you that he is a he used to be a Republican. And he's been switching over to like more Democrat type stuff because I think Trump might have pushed him over the edge.
Trump has that effect,
yeah.
Or he has that consolidating effect, and people double down. But
yeah,
I don't understand, but he does.
But on top of that, it's he's got a despite being on the left ostensibly. He often has right-wing opinions, okay, which to me isn't strange. My general thought on people's identities, and we kind of touched on this maybe 2 episodes back when we were saying how the whole siloing off of like, oh, I'm labeling yourself as a Democrat or a lefty or that's not really how it works.
It's pretty limiting too. Yeah.
So I guess just for the sake of making it easier to understand, he's heterodox. He's someone that we were debating maybe if we were going to have an on-screen debate, unlike Fox News type stuff.
Okay, you're just going to pick issues and try to go at it?
Well, we usually have really good conversations about these things. He's someone that I guess he'll say something like, yeah, Fox News is propaganda, and he'll be on that level. Yeah. And then he'll say something that maybe a Tucker Carlson would agree with, or like you know what I mean? Like he has these sort of like residual beliefs that we tend to debate over. So we were thinking about maybe talking about like trans stuff.
Everyone loves talking about that stuff.
Yeah, I still want to get on that at some point. Just because I feel like it's such an important... I have lots of reasons for wanting to talk about the trans issue, not just because it's so hot right now, but to me, as a black man, it seems like if there was podcasting done during the civil rights era, I'd like white guys telling other white guys not to hate black people. You know what I mean? Sure. So now that I'm in a position where it's like, okay, I'm not a trans person. Right. I've probably only met a handful of trans people in my entire life. Yeah. But as a non-trans person, I think they'd appreciate a non-trans person
sticking up for them.
Right. Like, you gotta talk to the rest of us cisgendered people and be like, listen, this should like stop being bigoted towards these people,
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's important. It's definitely like it's one of those things that I think, like, absolutely 100%, like, speak up for marginalized communities, but it's such a funny area where you can accidentally, like, with best of intentions, try to be sticking up for a community and then, like, kind of, like, say the wrong thing and get, like, kind of exploded on the internet.
I think it's a modern phenomenon, by the way.
That really is, but I just don't, I I think it's funny, like how you can accidentally make an enemy of people who you're trying to like defend because you defended them wrong. But there's a lot of that on the internet in all directions, not just for like trans people. It's like people who mean well. You know, you saw with like some of the Black Lives Matter stuff, like well-intentioned allies kind of overstepping and speaking for an entire like race when it's like, yeah, your heart's in the right place, but maybe you just like pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not the ambassador for all black people here.
Right.
So like chill a second. And that shit happens, and it's gonna continue to happen, and it's good to like cultivate conversation from it and learn, but it's also like people have to be like less prickly on this shit, you know, like
it's tough though, man, because you know the problem is that we have the internet now, and people are so comfortable first off putting your opinions out there on the internet.
Oh yeah. You're just asking for it.
Yeah, but then you have the situation where, you know, it's almost a cottage sort of industry where if I can go on and find this guy who's, despite him being in the correct, having the right, his heart's in the right place.
Right.
If he says one thing wrong, you know, I feel I can earn points dunking on this person's ignorance.
Get that karma.
Yeah, and there's people that would back him up like, oh yeah, he said that like they or whatever, and it's like, listen, I wasn't trying to offend anyone. That's just the way I talk. Like you were born in the 80s, you know, born in, and you know, we're not trying to hurt anyone if you misgender.
Damn it.
Yeah, it's like you misgendered this person on accident. Like I'm not trying to disrespect.
Especially
them.
if you're not with like deep in that community or like, you know, integrated and in such a way that you've got it all figured out. It's like, no, but you're trying your best to kind of like be supportive of your fellow human being and just be like, hey, these are fucking human beings and deserve like respect, decency, and just like basic human rights. Like there was something I saw earlier that was so funny and like such like a dumb way to like add gas on that like issue, which was like, it was some sort of Fox News thing talking about how a trans woman competed in a marathon, and it said she beat 1,400 other athletes and that they should give their medal back. And it was like, actually, which that was like the headline.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, which is like very, inflammatory, you know, just the way it's positioned. But in reality, it was like she got 6,000th something place in the fight, or in the race, and got a participation medal.
They wanted to give her a participation medal back?
It was just meant to incense people, you know, like the entire headline and everything, and the actual story is like, trans woman participates in a fucking all women's marathon and gets 6,900 and something and gets a participation medal. Like, if that's your headline, then no one gives a shit. But if you're like, she beat 1,400 other women and got a medal, and they're demanding that she give it back, and it's like,
wow.
But that's what I mean. Like that conversation specifically about like trans athletes is such like it's like a false flag, you know, kind of thing to get people riled up. Like, yeah, it does matter for like the individuals within the sport, but I also think like it's not that big of a deal, you know, and it's up to those sporting bodies to kind of navigate it. And it will be like an issue, but it's not a political issue. It's a sporting issue, and sports need to figure it out. Like anything can be political, sure, but the fact that it's made to be like this kind of cornerstone issue is, to me, like so crazy.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at sort of the trans dialogue, if you're a pro trans rights person, I'd say about 95 to 99% of what we believe on that side is correct. Like, it's hard to argue against if you're a conservative or someone who's like anti-trans rights, right? However, I do think if there's one spot that is, even if it's not correct, at least contentious enough to debate, is like, how do you handle trans people inside of the sports?
Absolutely. I mean, I agree, but I just don't think like there are so much, like you said, 95% of that conversation is over here, and that's this 5%. That is like, it's hard to figure out, like, because you can't just like have, you know, genetically male-born individuals like competing against women, and like when they do destroy them, not that they can't compete against them, but when you're talking records, when you're talking about things, like you almost need to make like a class of, but that's like almost impossible to do because there's not like a large enough trans population to have like an all trans, you know, soccer team versus an all trans soccer team, and then
right.
So it's an issue, and I'm not saying it's not, and I don't have the solution to that. I don't think anyone ever really will have an easy answer to that.
No, I mean, something drastic would have to happen. I mean, like, well, first off, you know, from my understanding, the real problem comes not just from like a professional player, but like, let's say, for instance, in a very obscure case scenario, you know, you're in high school, you are playing soccer, you're a female, cis female soccer player, you're very good looking, and you are looking to get a college scholarship through your soccer skills.
Yeah.
And you don't, let's say hypothetically, you lose out on the full ride because there's a trans female who's like good too, but also very dominant on the game.
Yeah.
I know, obviously this is a very narrow, small, but I'm just saying hypothetically speaking.
Right.
If that were to be the case, that's something that you know, you'd have to look at, like, okay, was this correct
again
to do?
But that's case to case though. You know, that is case to case, and that's also like such a crazy hypothetical. Like,
it is crazy. We acknowledge that, but it's just like, you know, you want your solutions to be something that's scalable. Like, obviously, you're not going to have this run of like trans females taking all of the scholarships, you know, doing all this stuff. But you want to make sure your solution is scalable, because you don't want it to be. You don't want it to be subjective in that nature. You want it to be so coherent that we have an objective sort of way to solve the problem. But to me, you know, if someone were to talk to me about that, my issue with that is, if you're worried about a trans person taking another like cis woman's scholarship, to me, that's not an argument to discriminate against trans people. That's another argument for why college should be free.
Oh, okay.
You know, like, you take the whole, like, I'm not going to go to college unless I can kick a ball good out of the equation.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, you can still go to this college and maybe play on that same team as a, you know, trans person. But
yeah. No, but it's hard to have a scalable solution in regards to that. It's, you know, it's a non-binary issue, and like we're used to, like, we live in this binary, at least when it comes to gender, like, rules in terms of, like, especially sports. Like, sports is such a specific thing where, like, the physicality of men versus women is just inherently different, you know. So it's gonna be an issue for a while, you know. But I do think it's like the dumb slippery slope argument that people like to make is like, well, then you're just going to have a bunch of guys who turn into girls just so they can break records. And it's like, I don't know about that, you know? Like, there's going to be, you know, men who transition to females who are also athletes and want to continue, like, pursuing their passion, of course. But you're not going to have athletes just transitioning so they can be like, I'm dominant in this sport, you know. Like, I don't know, I'm not saying that's impossible. Like, somebody like motivated enough won't do that at some point, but at the same time, I just don't think it's like going to be a pervasive problem within sports and society. Like, but I do think, like, honestly, I've heard studies that say, like, you know, the idea of a less gender binary future is pretty possible within, you know, the next 50 years or so. I just think, like, we're getting away from those, and you'll see more and more, like, androgyny be a thing, which honestly, it was very popular in the 80s, you know, like, it maybe just
like having an androgynous look.
Yeah, but now it's like there's more science and or ways to go about attaining your ideal body.
When I hear that, I think about, do you remember that Dave Chappelle skit?
With Prince?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the dude's looking most like a bitch, just getting all the bitches.
Yeah. But it's true. I mean, if the future is going to be like weirder and weirder, I think sexuality and sexual identity would probably be more open and fluid, as well as like gender identity. Because if you really break it down, at the end of the day, it's like it's clothes and makeup, and a boob job. And like whatever else, and identifying as feminine, or identifying as more masculine, it's really not as like complicated as we want to make it. And like we're like, what is the chromosomes and blah 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 blah. But it's like, there's some pretty guys out there. They want to look prettier, they just like go for it. Same thing. There's very butch women who, if they want to be more masculine, like more power to them, and let them go for it.
Yeah. Well, even with that, it's like. And I hope, because I kind of want to do like a series on the podcast where, and I can count this as like the intro to like the trans discussion. But, one of the things that's been bugging me lately is that if you talk to someone about what you're saying, which is more of a cultural understanding of gender and all that stuff, but they'll say like, oh, well, scientifically that's not the case. And that's wrong. Scientifically, there is evidence to back up trans identities and all that stuff. And so part of the reason why I want to talk about this is because I want to be able to give like the reasoning why trans people should be accepted, not just on a moral level,
right,
which is like, I guess, humanist, like this person is a person, they deserve to be accepted just as a human,
right,
but accepted on a like constitutional level, and and lastly on a scientific level, because that last one is the one where they say where they think they got us, as far as like, well, if you look at the science on this, there's two sexes, blah blah blah. It's like, no, if you really look at the science, it completely validates trans existence.
Oh yeah. I mean, besides just like people being born intersex, which happens, I don't know specifically to like the science you're speaking of, but yeah, I can't imagine, like it's as clear cut as just being I've got a penis, you've got a vagina, right. Like people are born different ways all the time, and there's different sets within there, I'm sure, and how it breaks down. But I'm no scientist.
It's also funny is I was talking to someone about like there's also like a religious backing for it.
For backing for trans people?
Yeah, or multiple gender, like in the Quran, not the Quran, sorry, the Torah, which is like the Jewish Bible.
Right.
They speak about 6 different genders. Yeah.
Wow.
So you got like a religious one, and not just any, like an Abrahamic one, which is obviously we're in America, so that's like the key, like Jewish.
That's our big one.
Yeah.
We like him the best.
Abraham is the coolest of the all religions. So it's like, so that's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Yeah.
But I was talking to someone about how in Norse mythology, Loki is someone that transforms from being a male to female all the time, and has even gotten pregnant in this female form.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And obviously that's the mythology, which all religion is. But if you come from a culture that has written a mythology in which a male gets pregnant, then conceptually speaking, you understand the idea behind not being who you feel, right?
Sure. And also, I mean, I think it was even in Native American cultures, there was they called them like dual spirits or something.
Yeah.
People who were like very androgynistic naturally, and they were valued, But I always find it interesting, like morality and culture like merge so seamlessly, and like when you grow up in a society and you just like accept these are the standards, and it's like you don't question those. It's like that's right, that's wrong, and people who live outside of those, people get bent out of shape, and it's like, yeah, but really all you're talking about is like what we socially have kind of generally said is like this is acceptable behavior and this isn't. But if we lived in a society where like the normal was to like not have a gender, even if we still had the male parts and the female parts, it wouldn't be a thing. It wouldn't be a conversation, you know, like it'd be a non-factor. But especially like in a Christian nation like this, where we're like super repressed sexually, and like anything that kind of falls outside of like the norm, people just like have such a hard time with and make such a big fuss about. It's honestly just like very silly, you know. I just don't think it should be as big of an issue as it is, and people take everything to the extreme in America, you know. It's again the everyone loves to make a slippery slope argument on shit like this, where it's like when you first like accepted, you know, gay marriage, like, yeah, but what's to stop them from marrying their horse?
Right.
And it's like, that is so dumb. We're not talking about that. It's not a slippery slope to that, you know? It's like, we're talking about two human beings, you know? And we are allowed to talk about that without automatically going to fucking past Z, you know? This is A, B, and C. You know, right here we're dealing with A and B. We're talking about including C. And you're saying we got to go all the way to Z.
Well, give it enough years, we'll get to marrying horses.
Yeah, and it's just like, that's such a bad faith argument, and such a stupid like way to engage in arguments and debates. And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like you see that kind of argument and like logical fallacy taking place in American politics like nonstop.
Right.
You know, it's like once you start noticing it, you can't stop noticing it. It's like,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The thing with the slippery slope, you know, is specifically for that topic, is it really shows that a lot of people don't understand why we do the things we do, right? So with that particular argument, well, what's to stop you from marrying a horse? Well, the answer to that is quite easy. Is that we understand the concept of two people having enough wherewithal to make a decision to get married, right? Yeah. What's the term for it?
Consenting adults.
There we go. Yeah.
I was like, what? I was like, I'm about to say this, but you should know this.
I had the term. I was like, why can't I remember this right now?
Worry, I'm big dumb all the time.
Still hungover from the other day.
Oh, man, the dreaded 2-day hungover.
I don't know what the fuck happened to me, man. I think, well, actually, I do know, which
those
is
optimators.
Well, that, but I think it was you mix. Okay, we'll come back to this because I do want to talk about the concept of beer before liquor, which is bullshit.
But anyway. That kind of did you.
Okay, so yes, consenting adults, right? We understand the concept of consent, and we know that a horse can't give consent.
Right.
So that's why you can't marry your horse. That's why you can't marry a child. That's why you can't marry a can of paint. You know, you have to have someone who's wherewithal to like sign the legal documentation to be married. I mean, I guess you could, if you're not worried about them signing, I guess you could technically marry a horse and you guys can live happily ever after, not protected by the law or whatever.
Yeah.
But, I mean, so there's nothing stopping you. Ever.
You want it, like, it's the same thing. You can marry like those like fuck dolls, you know, and be like, yeah, like I love her, and it's like, and everyone's gonna be like, that's weird, but like honestly, I don't think people get as upset about that. They're like, well, at least they're just having sex with a doll and not like, you know, traumatizing some poor lady or doing violence or whatever.
Right, but people think that, you know, oh, marriage is actually some other things. Like, no, really, marriage is a in the sense that people are fighting for their right to marry. Yeah, it's protection under the law. Like, it's a legal construct that we've created.
Right, and really, like, when you talk about marriage in the modern sense, it's such a funny thing because that people are like the sanctity of marriage. Yeah, and they've been divorced like 3 times, and it's like, what all you're talking about is like tax breaks. Yeah, you know, like that you get, and like you're just legally like defining it this way. Like, if people want to do that, like, who cares? They're living together. They're like love each other, and they just want those tax breaks too, and whatever other benefits come along with it.
Yeah, so like, you can get your property. You buy a house together. You know, when
yeah.
you dies, you get to keep it.
And just like the whole like idea of the nuclear family, like that's so like antiquated at this point, and it barely exists. You know, between the divorce rates and just the necessity of it, it's not even really a necessity anymore. Like, you need two working people just to keep a house afloat in the modern America. Like, so really all you're talking about is like a financial agreement to like save each other some money, you know, and you're gonna get out, romanticize it. These are the same people, like, no, you know what, they're just the same people who have all the worst opinions.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, shit, man, you should just say I will eventually, but it's no, and I'll say it like this. As you know, I love debating conservatives.
Yeah.
And if you do it as much as I do, you recognize that despite this conservative being the stereotypical, like, bigot or whatever, like really ignorant towards some shit, okay, yeah. That person versus, you know, a very sort of articulate, well-read, we'll say like a Ben Shapiro type, doesn't matter who they are, they have this, it's the same argument, right? And it's not the same argument between those two, but it's the same argument throughout history. And which goes back to what I was saying, being a black person, wanting to talk about trans rights, is that every argument used currently against trans people was once used against gays, women, blacks, Jews, like throughout history. Yeah. So it's the same shit over and over again. And it crops up every generation, we have to smack it back down. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, you have to, like, it's about devaluing people's place in society, you know? And is that a, you know, you can make the argument that that's like to prop them up so they feel extra special, you know, in their place in society.
There's lots of reasons to do it.
Yeah, it's just like, it's really annoying, and just like, I'm so sick of it.
Well, so I wasn't prepared to really do a hard dive in the trans stuff today, but it is something I want to do, like, going forward. Like, this could be like an intro, and then like maybe next time I'll come back with like, this is the scientific reason why.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll talk on that.
I mean, I think it's worth busting some of those myths, you know, the myth buster portion of the show, you know.
I'm a bigot buster.
The bigot buster.
Yeah.
Just like picking one of those like fundamental arguments and just cracking it wide open.
Pretty much what I do. So, I think we should move on. I kind of wanted to ask you to do the audience a favor.
Okay. And
talk about your Vegas trip. Specifically, your story of meeting what I'm dubbing as a rookie hooker.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can do a synopsis, a quick one.
So you were in Vegas playing soccer.
Quick old Vegas, man soccer. Yep. Old man tournament, 35 plus. 4 games in 2 days. There with a bunch of good friends I've known for years. Some I haven't seen in a while because they moved away. It was a great excuse to get together with the boys. Awesome time. Vegas is always like a lot of fun. Just want to make sure we're still there. I had a love-hate. Like, I kind of hated Vegas the first few times I went.
Okay.
And then I kind of figured out how to deal with it.
Well, you don't gamble.
No, I do. I do now.
The first few times
First few times, I was just always so broke. And I was just like, man, I can't just, like, justify, like, throwing money in these machines because I know I'm going to lose, you know?
Okay.
Honestly, the first time I had a lot of fun was going with, because we just, like, we're like, this is how much money we're going with. We're just going to, like, you know, go to a really nice dinner. We're going to go to see a show. We're going to, like, do it up, you know, and just pretend like this money doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
So you got to pick that chunk of money that you're okay with just losing, and then just go for it, right?
Yeah.
So come to really enjoy the whole Vegas experience, but you kind of have to do it your way. Speaking of, though, playing 2 games a day, and then trying to go out at night and drink, and it took a lot out of me. I got back and I literally like fell asleep at like 8 o'clock. Well, hey, 2 days in a row, just was out, done for.
Wiped out
from just how much I did, how much I drank, how much I ran, hurt my body, everything hurt. So I guess it was the first night, which was Saturday. It didn't fly until 11, so she was just done. She was like, went straight to the bed and then passed out. And went out with a couple of the people. We went over to Treasure Island, which was across the way from the Venetian, and we had been gambling, doing this, that, and the other. Lost a bunch of money. Spent like an hour and a half on the horses, the little plastic ones.
So cute.
They're fun. It's cheap. And so I come back, and we've been taking some mushrooms. It was fun. Not like tripping or anything, just like stimulated. Okay. And say goodbye to Caleb, his buddy Gordon, and whoever else. And I go to the casino floor bar, which is like right in the middle of it all. And I sit down and it's like, I don't have one more drink and go to bed. Sitting there, got a couple over here, and then this other weirdo couple comes over on this side, and it's kind of like a big octagon, dectagon type of shape. Okay. Yeah. Huge, but has little corners. Yeah. This couple is like gambling with their buddy, and then they slowly start getting into some sort of drunk fight.
How close are you? How many seats? It's
literally like right next to me, these two. Okay. And then there's like the slight bend and like a bar here, and then this is where the other couple are. And they start fighting. This couple starts getting real weird, and then I start looking over, and it's this like skinny girl with like this like tight can be dress on, and she got these big old fake tits, and her nipple is just like out. It's like not the like areola, it's like the nipple. It's like right where the thing cuts.
Okay.
And it's like it's one of those things like she has to know it's out, and she, like her nipple is hard, like as a rock, like cut diamonds on that thing, man.
Sharp as nails.
Yeah, and so he's next to me, and I'm kind of like trying not to look, but you can't help but to kind of like peek over every now and again. But you're trying to like, I'm on my phone, like they're arguing, and it's like, oh my God. And then every time I look over, he's like doing this like slow, like voyeuristic style, like shot, like going, ooh, you know. But I'll look over, and he kind of every time he's like kind of like looking. I can't tell if he like wants me to look or if he's like self-conscious.
So every time you look, he looks back at you.
Kind of. Even if I'm just like you know, like he kind of is like, because he was sitting like kind of like this, but with like his camera like going like,
yeah. And
she's just like looking around like that. And so it's just weird. I'm like, what's going on? And I thought just they were doing some voyeuristic stuff. But it felt
like a precursor to like a porn. It's like
maybe
they're doing like, oh, I met this girl at the bar, which is obviously set up, and then they go back and shoot the rest of the video in the room.
Maybe, or she was a hooker, and he was like kind of trying to see this. I couldn't tell if I was supposed to be like, oh hey,
yeah, you
know, like it felt like they either really wanted me to notice or like didn't want me to like participate. I couldn't tell. But either way, I wasn't really feeling social, and they eventually got up, and then the couple eventually got up, and then like immediately this young girl, not like old enough to be in there and drink and everything, but she was like, you know, 21, 22 it seemed like.
Wow.
And they got some Lakers highlights I'm watching, and I'm just like, okay. But that couple, before I get ahead of myself, once she got up and like she had like this, I was just like, this was because they were a very odd couple too. They didn't match. You know how some people just like, you guys don't really make sense as a couple.
You mean she was too hot for him? Or like he was maybe like she's dressed like that and he's more like reserved looking? Or
a little bit of both, and he's kind of doofy looking.
Okay.
But it was also like, I couldn't get the vibe, and maybe it was his hooker and this was his thing, like, and then they're gonna go where he was like intermediate, not really a pimp, but someone that like
a pimp paralegal, is that
something like that? Yeah, like not a classical pimp. But then I just start looking around, and like everything's starting to seem like kind of weird, and I start noticing like, oh man, there's a lot of girls, and they're like skimpy and like kind of hot but kind of trashy, and I'm also looking around, and you see some like shady looking dudes like. And it just didn't match, you know? It wasn't just like, here's two bros. Here's like a couple, besides this couple who were like fighting.
Yeah.
I just start noticing like the pieces are weird, you know?
Right.
They get up. She puts on this backpack. It looks like, I don't know why the backpack's weird in my head, but it was. So anyways, this girl sits next to me, and she tries to like say something really lame. She's like, oh, you seem really into this game. And like talking about the basketball game, and I was like, yeah, I am, like, because I was just like, I'm not, no, like, we're not doing this. And then she just gave up immediately. Like, I guess just like the way I said, she had no follow-up.
Oh, man.
That's why I was like, also like, you're really young, and like if you were good at this, you'd probably like flirt better, you know?
Looks like you're really into this game. I like balls too.
Yeah, like, yeah, say something slutty, you know? But I also just like looked at her, and it was just like, I don't know. It was like, it's like the first time you dress up.
Yeah.
When you're like young, and you're like, I'm putting on a suit, but it was like, it's like her first suit? Time putting on her hooker suit, and just like, I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of things were like barely on or fitting like the way they needed to.
In addition to her like persona was like ill-fitting, is that?
Yeah, like it just looked like somebody else dressed her up, and they were bad at it, and like didn't have all the things that like needed to like fit her.
Yeah.
Just like had a suitcase full of like vaguely slutty things.
Just like hooker gear. Like,
yeah.
This is my hooker wardrobe.
And her like makeup,
tactical.
Like, she had these big fake eyelashes that looked like they were about to fall off. And yeah, and so I had noticed this other guy over here, and he was like playing the card game, but he like kind of looked at me, looked like this like Russian mobster type of guy, because it was just like,
yeah,
looking all like suspect.
You think that was her pimp?
I think it was, because next thing I know, he's over on the other side. It's like a 4-seater, right?
Okay.
She was sitting right next to me, and then all of a sudden he's over there, and then she moves over, and she's like talking to him, and he's like, brr.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for her to like, I was like, is he giving her advice? Is she like gonna come back?
Oh,
like,
man.
Because it almost seemed like that. Like he was like, no, go tell him he's handsome. Go say something like blah 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 blah. And she was like, oh, I don't know. Like, you didn't seem interested.
See, that's the thing that really made me laugh about the situation was that, I'm imagining this like hooker in training, who is approaching potential customers,
right,
and failing, has to go back and talk to her like managing hooker,
essentially get a pep talk.
To train you, like, okay, I like what you did there.
Yeah,
do like a compliment sandwich, like, okay,
yeah, your
approach was good. Okay, next time, maybe.
It's like when you're the server trainer.
Exactly, yeah, like an outback. It's like, okay, next time, kneel down more.
Yeah.
Use your
name. Try to make more eye contact. Just bat your eyelashes more.
What is the training regimen for a prostitute? That is what I want to know.
I don't think you want to know. But then I started looking all around, and it's just like everybody is looking like a hooker. Just like everywhere I look, there's like these girls would show up, because then this other hot girl shows up next to me, but she just orders water. Like, they don't order anything but water from the bar, because like, unless you're buying their drink, they're not spending the money.
Gotta stay lucid too. You don't want to be like,
yeah, you don't want to
sloppy.
be too fucked up. But yeah, and it also just kind of hit me like, oh well, this is Vegas, and like if there was a place where like you could probably pick up a hooker, and like I look like the prime like a prime target, I'm there by myself, just like.
My name is John.
Yeah, I'm John, the John. Just looking like, yeah, like this guy looks lonely. He's out here at like 2:30 in the morning, 3, just like having drinks, just waiting. But yeah, every time I looked, there'd be like a girl, and then like some guy like sitting up the slot machine, just kind of like
Yeah.
Like it's just like all within like earshot, and it just all is like, oh yeah. But this is like the Venetian. Like I'm sure you can go places that are like way seedier in Vegas, and like that shit's like way on this full display.
Now, what do you think though? Is it because Vegas, like prostitution, isn't legal technically. I mean,
It's
unlike
not within
Reno.
city limits, right? Or is it county? Is it just outside of Vegas that you can?
I know in Reno you can go up to the Bunny Ranch and it's perfectly legal.
But it's not in the city.
Right. But the other thing is, it seems that it's such a pervasive industry there that despite it being illegal, it effectively is legal. Like you're not going to get in trouble. The bartender, I'm sure, sees these ladies there every night.
Yeah.
Doesn't say shit.
Right. It's got to be one of those kind of known quantities of just like, it's just part of it. But I mean, there's hookers in every city,
of course.
Not just Vegas. So
they're not as bold though.
No, like I think the thing about Vegas is like half the people go out and dress like schlubs. The other half like really go all out, and then like a lot of girls get like real slutted up. They put on their best like slutty outfit and just go for it, and that's awesome. Like, but more power to them. Yeah, it's cool. But at the same time, like you can't run a business and just be like, you're a fucking hooker, get out of here, like to every girl who's like comes up to your bar and orders water, and like and the thing is like, what are you gonna do? Like you can't bust them unless they're exchanging money and say it like out loud, and you're an undercover cop, like, hey, I'm gonna pay you this $300 to go have sex with me in my room right now. And I don't think that's how it goes down. I think you get to the room and then you negotiate and you pay.
They arrest them after they have sex. Like, okay, I got you, red-handed.
The old South Park episode where he's fucking everybody. And you're busted. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's. I just felt bad when you told me you shut down this prostitute, and it's just in my mind I'm thinking like, man, she's like she's trying to break in. You're a tough customer. You shot her self-esteem down.
I mean, I wasn't mean to her. I just tried to make it clear that like I wasn't interested, because I like, wasn't. Yeah. Like having a drink before I go up and go to sleep. Girlfriend's up in the room, so like, hey, sweetie, I met Yolanda down here at the bar,
Caleb, how did you know? I've always wanted this to happen.
Yeah, like awesome. This is great. It's what I wanted to wake up to. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. That was Vegas is like special in that way, where it just like it feels like anything could happen. Most of the time, you just lose money.
Of course, yeah.
But it's always got this allure of something happening around every corner.
I'd say it's more than an allure. I'd say it's a guarantee. If you're looking, you can find it.
Oh, sure.
Pretty damn easy.
Yeah. That too. Yeah.
I remember, what was it? Try to buy drugs from someone.
Oh yeah.
And we ended up buying just like flour,
baking soda. But the guy was smart, because you can walk down the street and people will just be like every other guy is like Molly, Coke, Xan, like what do you want? Molly, Coke, Xan, blah 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 blah. Yeah. So he tried to get some blow. The guy gave him a sample under the bathroom and he tried it. Oh. And he was like, it's good,
Oh, okay.
Did a shady deal in the bathroom, and then like once he gave him the bag, it was the fake bag. So he had a real bag.
And he just booked it.
And well, no, he gave it to me. He didn't try it till later.
Yeah.
Because he'd already done the sample and was like, oh yeah, it's good.
Oh my god.
And then swaps the bag, which is like, well, pretty genius.
Yeah. But I didn't remember how that went, because I remember it was Saturday night. Someone said, oh, we should go to Vegas, like as a joke.
I think it was Sunday night.
Or Sunday night, yeah.
Yeah, and we were like drinking and like hanging out. And granted, at that time, we'd only been out here in LA for not even like a year at that point. We were still pretty fresh.
We were at Kent.
Yeah, but still, like that took us like 6 months to get over there, 3 to 5 months or something. And it was like pretty early in the Kent career. So I don't even know if we had been in LA for a year. And we were just like, well, Joe's out here. So I don't know when that happened.
I say we were maybe we were just cresting over a year.
Yeah. So he, who drove? Was it Joe?
I want to say it was definitely a car.
And Dustin sobered up. But we had to work. It was Monday. Some of us had it off for whatever holiday. And then some of us didn't. We didn't.
Right.
We had to work, but we were just like, let's go. Got like
How did we get so pumped to be like, yeah, it's 8 p.m. Let's take a 4-hour drive to Vegas.
Yeah.
Do some stuff.
I think maybe we thought it was 2-hour drive or 3 or something.
I think we thought that someone was gonna like be the the buzzkill and be like, no guys, we can't go to Vegas. It's Sunday, like we have to work. And no one did.
Yeah, it was a total bust. I mean, it was cool. It was a fun story. But we were there for like, what, an hour or two?
Yeah, I'd say 2 hours. I want to say we ate, did like minimal gambling.
And we go to a strip club?
And then we go to the strip club. In which other things happened at the strip club.
Yeah.
And then we drove back the 4 hours. And then we had to go to work.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was not the way to do Vegas. And that was like our only experience, like my only experience for like years. And I was just like, I don't even know if I like Vegas. And it was like, but it did make me feel weird. The other times I went just because I noticed like everyone is like fucking extra in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's so many like entitled people acting like extra belligerent.
Vegas is adult Disney World.
Yeah,
like, you
but
go
like
there, you're just a brat.
Yeah,
you're drunk,
obnoxious, and that's why it's like you got to do the pool because that's chill. It kind of resets between things.
Oh.
Just very nice. A show is great just because you can see some cool shit. And
I do want to see Cirque du Soleil. I really want to watch.
It's fun. It's super cool. I mean, these are very talented people. They're like very attractive, talented people who are like in the best shape ever.
You're right.
And doing insane things with like amazing costumes and like, I'm surprised people don't die more at Cirque du Soleil. Like,
die more? Did they have like a death rate on the?
There's got to be people who've died. Like, there's no way. They do insane things.
Yeah.
And some of it is like not safe. You know, like they've got somewhere that's like nets and stuff, and others where it's like, that's crazy.
Oh, shit.
Like somebody could die.
Yeah.
Like if they fuck this up, that's part of the like woo.
Right.
So yeah, it's a really cool, and there's a bunch of them. We went and saw Mystere, which is like it's a little bit of comedy, a little bit of music. It's kind of got this like animal Africa theme, but like a little bit of Alice in Wonderland shit.
Okay,
and,
it
like,
sounds trippy.
Yeah, it's cool. But I hear O is really cool. That's the one with like water and everyone's jumping around and flipping, and it's just like I don't even know if they dive into stuff or just they incorporate a lot of water. I don't know, but I want to see that one. Everyone says that one's like the best.
Yeah, fuck, man. One day, I mean, I feel you're in Los Angeles and all this cool stuff's around, and you just never really do it, you know. And I mean, I guess it's kind of a hassle too, but at the same time, it's like you're here. Why not go to the beach or Big Bear or go out to Vegas? And
I mean, you do it, and you're like, yeah, I should do this more, and then you like don't, and it'll be like a few years, and you're like, oh God, I haven't been out there in a while.
Obviously, it's money. Like, spending the money. Like, okay, cool, I need to go out and do this thing, but
it's a lot of planning too, especially if you go with groups.
Oh yeah, that for sure. Because we can be pretty flaky, number one, and number two, if you're not flaky, it's just like you got to get everyone's personalities together. But like, okay, what are we gonna do?
Herding sheep.
Yeah, are we gonna like buy a bunch of steaks, or are we gonna eat cold cuts all weekend? Like, you know, with the camping thing.
Yeah. Oh, I mean that was the thing too. Is like the soccer tournament was like such a good excuse just to get everyone together, and like it kind of planned a lot of it for us. And then we kind of got like a nice dinner reservation Saturday, which was awesome. But the one other thing about Vegas that I've realized, and I don't know, like maybe next time I'm flying out to Vegas because
not worth it.
I don't know. A lot of people are like, it's worth it because I think that drive back is kind of fucking terrifying.
Terrifying.
It can be. Like,
sure.
If it's windy, that entire strip, everyone is doing like, if you're going 80, you're going slow. You know, like everyone is driving like 80, 90 miles an hour.
Oh yeah.
And the wind is constantly pushing your car around. So you're just like, you know, white knuckling it the whole time. And
I mean, there's mountain parts that are certainly like,
dude, there's a good 2.5 hour stretch where like that's all you're doing, you know?
white knuckling around corners and.
Well, you're not. It's not a lot of corners. It's just the lanes are very narrow, and everyone's flying, and you've got the wind pushing you around, and you're just like. And if you're hungover and your nerves are fried, and you're just like a little bit just not with it, you get like nauseous. It's just like it's not a great experience.
Dude,
it's the worst part of it.
One time I came back. I went up there with. You remember we went like one time back when we were back in Kent's house.
Yeah.
And on the way back, the car I had, you know, the air conditioner was broken. We're both hungover, but I have to drive.
Yeah.
But, you know, we get to the desert and it's like 108 degrees. Oh. And we're trying to like have the windows open and drive as fast as possible, like so the air is flowing, but it's just not working. So we had to pull over. We pulled over probably 2 or 3 times just to puke. Like on the way back.
See? That's what I mean. And that's like way worse.
Yeah.
But like my experience it wasn't that bad, but it's just I kind of forget about it. And then I'm doing it and I'm like, oh God, yeah, like just like
yeah.
I need like a heavier car.
Yeah.
My car
not drink less, not like
I mean I don't think I was that bad because we left like later, but it plays into it, you know. Yeah. You're definitely just like, oh man, this sucks.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Can I segue into?
Go for it. Segue away.
Well, I just want to segue into the beer before liquor and me being hungover this weekend. Listen.
Yeah.
You know I handle my alcohol.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a minute. I don't get hungover typically.
Yeah.
Right. So. Just so the audience knows, we went to a German tavern, I guess.
Yeah, it's a place here in Silver Lake called the Red Lion Tavern.
Excellent place, super fun always. Went to see a buddy play piano there, also very talented. And my favorite drink there is the Optimator.
Yeah.
Right? It's a German beer.
I remember when I could drink beers. Those were awesome.
They're amazing. They taste great. They're just like, they feel very German.
Yeah.
They are, I believe, 11% alcohol.
Are they?
Yeah.
Probably.
Like, they're not to be fucked with.
Yeah. You gotta take them pretty serious.
Yeah. So, listen, fine, whatever. I'm drinking. I had to have had maybe 5 of them.
That's what I would say. Because I forgot about how strong they are. So, yeah, that makes sense. 5 will get you going for sure.
So, I had 5. And, you know, we're out with friends. We're having a good time, drinking. We came home, talked a little bit. I didn't feel terrible, fucked up. We talked. You and I talked.
Did he buy you a drink too?
No.
He bought everyone else like a round.
He bought a round of martinis, and that's actually what I think happened. Okay, so he bought these drinks.
Yeah.
Everyone gets the vodka martini dirty.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't. I just stuck with the beer. However, I took a couple of sips of martini.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty much straight vodka.
Pretty much.
That's what that is.
So if you're listening to the rule, beer before liquor, you've never been sicker. Liquor before beer, you're in the clear. Okay. So I did the beer before liquor I was drinking Optimators and then I sipped some vodka.
But that was it?
Well, I think that was a problem, but I don't think it's because I drank beer before liquor, as in like how I started with vodka and then ended up with Optimator. I'd be okay. I think the problem is that if you drink a light liquor, as in light in color, with a dark liquor, then that can make you sick, right? So the Optimator is basically it's a dark beer. It's probably a shade lighter than Guinness.
Yeah, or just as dark. I mean, it's a dark beer. Yeah.
So I think when you mix a drink like that's dark, and you mix it with a clear liquor like vodka, that gives you the like fucked up stomach.
Oh, your stomach was jacked up?
Everything was jacked up, dude. So I went to sleep fine. Like I was whatever.
Yeah.
The next day I woke up and like everything was spitting. I didn't have an appetite. Didn't want to get up. I was just like, it was a very typical, like hangover, like headache, that sort of thing. Like everything was just bad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, shit. I woke up today a little hungover. Like I'll be all right. By midday or something.
Yeah.
Midday comes, still horrible.
Just all day.
Pretty much all day. In fact, I was still feeling weird, like a little bit this morning before I went out and went for a walk. I tried to sweat the toxins, but I'm like five optimators. Like that shouldn't put me under for over a day.
Dude, I had my stomach was all messed up yesterday. I was like in the bathroom like 5 or 6 times.
Ugh. Well, you got other issues with your like.
Yeah, but all I drank was ciders, and then I had a vodka martini. But I didn't have any dinner, so my stomach was like a little messed up. But I was kind of in the same boat where I was like, man, I didn't think I like went that hard last night. So I don't know why I was messed up. But I will say Red Lion, like, I wonder about their health, and their health code is like the best.
Oh shit.
I don't know, because like I was looking over, there was like this mess. This guy had a trash can, and he was just like, it was overflowing. He didn't care, like, but I didn't really eat anything, and everything was out of a can that I got. So maybe it was just too much sugar from the ciders that did me in, and just like did me dirty. And same with you, like you're drinking optimators out of the bottle. So I don't really know. Just unless did we sneak a shot in there at some point?
Unless you count the sips of vodka, but I didn't do any shots, so just took like really 2 sips of vodka to go with my optimator, and I think that was what fucked me up.
I don't know, man. I think those optimators just got on top of you, though.
I just can't imagine it. I mean, I drink. I've gone on like moonshine benders where I'm just like drinking a jug of moonshine and fine the next day.
I don't know.
I think it's a mixture.
Maybe.
Try it out.
Might be onto something.
Like,
let us know what you find out.
Drink vodka and whiskey and see if that fucks you up.
But no, wait. You didn't drink vodka and whiskey, though.
Well, I think it's the light and dark mixture. So if you drink different colors.
Oh, so you're saying like the races shouldn't mix?
I'm saying we need to have a separate but equal policy. You drink your whiskey one day equally as you would drink your vodka equally.
Oh,
all right?
No. You're right.
It's a way of life, all right? It's not natural.
It's just natural. Fair enough.
That was my segue because I promised I'd talk about.
Yeah, that's your terrible hangover. Mine wasn't that bad, but
I don't get I feel like I don't get hangovers anymore. Like first off, I don't drink. You and I figured out a long time ago that 4 drinks is probably the point of crossroads, where if you drink more than that, you're probably in for a drunken night, or you can just stop and you'd be fine. Yeah. But hangover, like, how many times have we drank more than that? Like, I drink more White. I mean, I guess White Claws are less just alcoholic, but still.
They're not as hard on you. I don't think you drink like heavy beer like that ever anymore.
Yeah, like an Allagash Corio, like those beers will like.
Yeah, like those are like heavy beers, dude. Like
they
those
will fuck you up.
Yeah, 11% is no joke either. Like, that's the thing. Like if I drink seltzers. It's like with seltzers, you just eventually kind of plateau, and you're like, I'm not getting any more drunk than this. I'm just gonna like drink one of these and go pee. Like, this is what happens. But like with wine, when I drink wine, because that shit's like 14%.
Yeah.
It's a hard stop, and it's just like I'm
14.
done.
Shit.
Yeah. Like, so those 11%ers, dude, they'll get you. And I just think maybe you just haven't done beer.
Okay, optimators are actually 7.6%.
Okay, then you have no excuse.
Right. Because White Claw's 5.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
So even if you do get a slight hangover, it shouldn't last 24, 36 hours.
No. Yeah, that's
crazy.
I don't know. Maybe it was expired.
That's Asian alcohol terms. It's like, this is what optimator has been.
It's gone bad. I don't know.
We're an hour in, but I do want to ask you about something, because I feel like we've kind of neglected one pillar of our personalities and lives.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, not obvious to the audience, but to you.
Yes.
I've been playing a From Software classic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Bloodborne.
Bloodborne.
Now, you're a veteran. From Software?
I'm like a failed veteran, like a failure to
You've
launch.
seen some things.
Yeah, but I've told you I feel like I'm terrible at those games. I don't know who feels good at those games besides speedrunners.
Yeah. I mean, most of us don't feel good, and that's why we revere the Let Me Solo Hers of the world. You know,
It makes no sense.
zero. It's like, how did you even get this? So anyway,
Their brains work different.
To my credit,
Yeah.
I've played Sekiro. It was the first From Software game I played. Then I went to Elden Ring.
Yep.
And now I'm on Bloodborne.
Yeah, a really unnatural progression.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's hear your thoughts first. How do you feel about Bloodborne in terms of just the From Software experience?
I think it's completely sexist, ableist. I think it's not how games should be made.
True.
No,
if inclusion isn't at the forefront, then why make it?
That's a funny sort of like, there's a thing where people hated on Elden Ring because it was like so tough, and like
people like made it about a bunch of things that it wasn't, and labeled it misogynistic and all these things that are just like completely off base. And really it's just like, when people do that, or like, what was it, somebody did that with the Mario movie too, where they started like going off on it. It was like this chick from New York who got roasted for just basically going hard on the Mario movie, and everyone kind of universally loved it.
But what was her problem with it?
She had all these bad hot takes on it. She's like, it didn't make any sense. And she's from New York, and she's got this really weird, like kind of cringy New York accent.
Okay.
And one of her gripes was like the Mario New York accent she found offensive.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know, I'm from Brooklyn, and like no one talks like that. And it's like, you're just sitting there like, really?
Yeah. Should we tell her?
Yeah, like a coworker, he sent me a link of it, and I watched just a little bit of it. And at first, I was just like so confused, because I was like, is she putting on an act? Yeah. Why does she talk like this? He's like, oh, she's from New York, and like this, and it's just like, oh my god. So she just missed all of it, and like made it about a bunch of stuff that wasn't. And this happened with Elden Ring. Somebody tried to make it like a think piece on sexism and misogyny, and it's like. And they use all these points about like characters that are in it that are just like, wait, that's how everybody talks. That's how everyone is. And then, so yeah, just got way ahead of themselves. Not to derail your.
Well, no,
thoughts.
it's actually a good point, because just to kind of touch on the Mario thing, there were all sorts of thoughts that were happening as far as that. Like, there was people that were saying like, oh, obviously, well, Chris Pratt not being like Italian or whatever is an issue. Which was funny, because like one of the higher profile people that were criticizing like diversity on the movie was John Leguizamo.
Oh right.
And he was like, I'm not gonna go watch the movie because
I heard his
two white
reason
guys
too.
or whatever.
I thought his reason was a little self-centered, and it was kind of silly and kind of missing the point. And his whole thing was like, because he is Latin. And he's like, we made headway, and we were revolutionary on like making Luigi Latino and blah blah blah, or like, but it was like, yeah, but bro, like, it ain't about that. Yeah. Like everything about the Mario movie, and I actually kind of like that movie. Like I grew up watching it. I didn't realize how just dysfunctional it was, because I
remember hating it growing up.
I didn't hate it. I was very confused by it, but it was very unique in the way that it was done. Definitely wasn't the Mario games I played, but he was mad that they didn't make Luigi like Puerto Rican again or whatever, and it was just like, bro, they're Italian plumbers. Yeah. Like he was never Puerto Rican. You were just cast, and you were Puerto Rican, or.
You were like the it thing back in like the 90s.
Yeah.
And we were like, we gotta get.
But he was like saying he's boycotting it because of that, and I was like, bro, have you played these games at all?
Right.
Like, are you just like were in the movie and like thought he was? If he's not Puerto Rican, I'm sorry. Like I don't even know.
Well, he's not Italian.
He's definitely not Italian. But that was his point, is that they made Luigi Latin, and that was great, and that was like the whole. It's like that's not even what anything about it isn't about that, you know. So if you're trying to make Mario and Mario Luigi about race, I think you already missed the point, you know?
Wow, do you think... I mean, because we didn't have Twitter back then, so there isn't people like blowing up problems on that sort of thing, like the race swapping, as they call it.
Nobody even thought about shit like that. They were just like, oh, John Leguizamo, he's great. I like him,
Or maybe they didn't know
was fun in the
Italian.
Pest,
The Pest.
Kids
God.
loved him in The Pest.
Do you remember he had that like in Living Color style, like Mad TV style show?
Did he?
He had a variety show called Buggin'.
No. I mean, that name sounds familiar, but I don't remember that at all.
It wasn't very good, but it came
can't
on after
imagine.
Living Color.
I love John Leguizamo, and by the way, like, just putting it out there.
Yeah, he's
if
great.
this gets back to him, I don't want him to think I'm not a fan.
He's great. We love John Leguizamo, but it's like, there's a thing that happens in modern day TV. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you commenting on this, John? Like,
I think he was just mad. I think he was butthurt. He didn't get to play Luigi again.
Oh God.
It was so stupid and off base to me, and it's like, and that's like the kind of stuff where people just get ahead of themselves.
Charlie Day is in now, right?
Yeah.
John Leguizamo, he's yesterday's.
Yep. Correct. But yeah, I hate it when somebody like, okay, here's the cake you made, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is like this is Mario. This is the movie Mario. This is the cake they made. Somebody who wasn't involved in making the cake comes and says, I'm mad that your cake is a cake and it's not a pizza by like this guy and for all of these reasons. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because we just made a cake for people to enjoy cake.
This flavor.
And it's themed this way.
Yeah, we like it this way.
But people want to like inject all of these things that have nothing to do with the cake that was baked and make it about that.
The
and
cake's
like,
got the wrong frosting.
But like that's a fair critique. You're saying like,
is chocolate better than vanilla frosting? Who says?
Because that would be a criticism of the cake.
Uh-huh.
You constructed something else that you're saying should have been made or should have been included, like spaghetti.
Okay.
You're saying your cake doesn't have any spaghetti in it, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
And the fact that like the flavor profiles chosen for this cake aren't spaghetti.
Right.
And it's like, what? Like, so your argument that you're forming against the cake is just like the fact that it's not spaghetti.
Right.
It's
not that the cake is not a good cake.
Yeah.
It's not a good
and they didn't even try the cake. And they won't try the cake.
Because
I won't
it's
even
not spaghetti enough.
Yeah, I won't even look at the cake. I fundamentally know that cake is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how people write like criticisms about shit like that. And that's like what happened from the Mario movie, fundamentally not understanding that it was a cake for children to enjoy.
Okay.
And making it about a race thing and taking a stand about it. Like, your cake is racist. It's a fucking cake, bro. It's meant to spread joy and happiness and be eaten at parties, So, like, maybe it doesn't need to be about race, Did you think about that? But people do that all the time. And it's always people who, like, want to sound really smart and they're writing, like, think pieces like for their college graduate program and like inject all of this stuff that's like in their like lane and their view on things that like creators make that they're like, I'm not trying to comment on this section of life, and they make it a problem that they aren't as interested. I remember reading this review on Pitchfork about a Jack White album, and it was so obnoxious because he just made like this straight up, it was just rock. It was simple. It was straight. Yeah, and it was just wanted to make a rock album. And then the review was like, he's not speaking about like gender issues or making it about like he has all this influence and he could be saying all these things, and the commentary in here I find to be lacking because it's not like talking about all these things I care about. It was so selfish and self-centered, and people do this on the internet all the time. And I just thought it was like the most like it's like sophomoric, like I'm important because I'm in college and I'm learning stuff, and like I need to fucking regurgitate it and make everything about that. And it's like, but you're just being a narcissist and like thinking like everything revolves around your point of view.
Yeah, like they have all this education about all these big words. I won't even say big. We'll say buzzwords as far as like
$10 words.
But I don't know if they're even that. They're just like the terminology. They're almost virtue signaling to a very specific type of person who would see those words and go, "Oh yeah, I understand what you're saying." So it's a misplaced attack on something and on everything really that doesn't really fit into that narrative.
Doesn't even fit into the category. It's not even like the same thing.
Regardless of whether or not it's supposed to.
You're forcing this like viewpoint onto everything, and it's like, and that was like what happened with Elden Ring and like what happened. So a bit of a tangent from where we started.
But, right. Well, that's a hot button issue because it was so like stupid. Because Elden Ring obviously is an incredible game. It delivers an experience that maybe is either long forgotten or a new experience, because you mentioned like, it kind of resembles those old Zelda games where you would just go around and get killed somewhere or don't have the tools to get to where you need to be.
You didn't know what you were doing.
No one told you shit. Like the clues are sporadic. They're
like the original
riddled.
NES game. You just go into a tunnel and he says, "It's not safe. Take this with you." Gives you a fucking sword.
Yeah.
And then you go and explore. And it was awesome. It was great. You know, it got your imagination going, all this wonder, and just like, what is all of this, you know? It's beautiful. And Miyazaki, the creator of Dark Souls and Elden Rings, on record as that being one of his inspirations, you know?
Yeah.
So,
but the gap between those Zelda games of the 1980s, 90s,
yesteryear.
Yeah. Then we've had all these other games that I don't like to use the term, but I know you use the term like hold your hand.
Yeah.
In the game, I don't necessarily believe that's the case always.
Not always, but a lot of them are too heavy. At least for a while. Yeah. I feel like that trend has died down a little bit. But possibly, like when everything was a first-person shooter for a while, like after Halo, like you would do the same tutorial on everything. And there'd always be like, all right, there'd be a point where you'd have to squat and go through a tunnel.
Yeah.
Just to load the game.
Well, also to tell you that you can squat, and this is when you would do it. You have to crouch and go through this hole.
It was really tedious. And there was like a big trend, and like a part of like Demon Souls was like kind of bucking against that trend, you know? So it set a precedent, and like the first Demon Souls was like a test bed for their ideas, and it's all expanded, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, the problem that people have with these Soulsborne games, is that you get in there and you just get your ass kicked.
You did.
I mean, it really comes down to it. You go in there, and even the most baseline, bad guy or whatever can totally fuck you up if you're not on your game.
Oh yeah.
Which is problem A, but problem B is, to level up, they have this thing where you're collecting souls or blood or runes or whatever it is
for that game, yeah.
And if you get killed, you lose them, as in they drop at the place that you were killed, and then you have to go and get them back. Oftentimes, fighting through a series of enemies that you can't die. If you die again, you lose them permanently. Like, so you're already pressured to do this sort of thing. You can't pause.
No pause.
You can't. You're never really safe. Nothing's ever safe. It's you're constantly on edge.
Oh yeah.
And on top of that, after all that work, you get to a boss fight, and that person completely fucks you up for a week, and you spend every day losing and trying to beat this person, and then one day you're like, oh, I got it. And so like that's frustrating for people who are used to fighting easier bosses and easier enemies.
Yeah. It's great.
it's amazing if you're that type of person who doesn't give up easily. If you're okay with the challenge, but like a lot of people aren't. They want to have like, I want to get through this game.
Yeah. Look, I get the argument for like an easy mode in a game, but those games. And most of the time it's like, yeah, fine, whatever. But like the experience that they're cultivating and kind of their entire philosophy revolves around the difficulty. Sometimes it's bullshit. Sometimes it's really frustrating.
It's very frustrating when you die in a bullshit way, like I did yesterday when I got pushed off a cliff.
Yeah. And that happens all the time in those games. They're not perfect, but like the reason they are popular and the reason people like are so attracted to them is the fact that they both stick to their storytelling themes and their design like choices in a very uncompromising way. And a lot of the themes and a lot of the satisfaction come from overcoming these seemingly impossible odds.
Right.
You know,
right.
So you can't have the same experience by making the game like quote unquote easier. And I do think like Elden Ring has many ways to make the game easier, but you still have to put in the work to figure out what those are.
Yeah.
It's not just going to tell you. I like it because it doesn't like insult your intelligence.
Okay.
I'm not great at those boss fights. I feel like I've given up on those games and gotten to places where it's just like it was a full stop, and I was like, I can't beat this guy.
Yeah.
And then put the game away and came back like, I think Dark Souls, I loved the game, but I got stuck. I can't remember where. Completely just like didn't know what to do. Didn't look it up. I should have looked it up. And I put it down for like a year and then came back, or 2. I don't even know. It was a long time. I moved, like Dark Souls 3 came out and I was just like, I'll play this. But yeah, I don't think you get the same experience. And it's designed to be that, you know?
Yeah.
So to ask them to be something other than what they are is foolish. You know, like you're a clown if that's what you want, you know? Like it's like, and it's insulting. It's like telling an artist, because I think they make some of the closest resembling like games to art.
Oh yeah.
When you put everything together,
beautiful set pieces, beautiful
yeah.
characters,
amazing environmental storytelling,
yeah.
like it just like sets the imagination on fire. Does it need to be as hard as it is to do all of that? Not necessarily, but
I'd argue so.
But yeah, there's something about that oppressive nature and like the world that has like gone terribly wrong, and you're just like, it's not going to give it to you easy. So I think it's wonderful, but just my point, like you can't go into an art exhibition and tell the artist that they're wrong for making the art the way they made it. Like modern critics, like you can be critical of it and have whatever thoughts you want of it after the fact, but to tell like these designers that they're designing their games wrong is just like kind of stupid. Like, but that's where we live in like the internet, which is like hyper critical of everything, and everyone's got an opinion, and like this is how you make it better, and blah 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 blah. But it's like, you didn't make shit. Like, shut up, you know. But you know, I say that and I'll have a dumb opinion about something, you know.
Well, we're allowed to have opinions on things, but I do think one thing you're kind of hitting on is that the difficulty and its imperfect nature is kind of like it's there's beauty in that as well. So as far as the difficulty, it's like the euphoria you get from actually finally beating this boss or those enemies or this section, like it's unmatched in any other game, I think.
True, yeah.
You know, there isn't any other game where you struggle, like literally to beat the final boss in Elden Ring. It literally took me 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Of constant, like every day, spend 20 minutes, an hour fighting, figuring out their moves, dying over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then one day, I remember I picked it up and I couldn't be touched.
You're just the god.
Yeah.
You were the
I knew their
Lord.
moves, I knew the patterns, like everything, and I like completely dominated. Same thing with Sekiro. Like the Sekiro end boss has 3 fucking
Phases.
Transformations.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine
Brutal game.
you
Still never beat it.
you gotta get.
I gotta go back.
It has 3, so you go through. You struggle with its first form.
Yeah.
You figure that out finally. Oh, there's a second form, which is normal, and from Soulsborne games,
yeah.
which is normal. They usually have a second one. All right, so
Yeah.
you expect that, right? You struggle through whatever moveset that is. You think you got him because that's his second and last form. No, he's got a third one. So yeah, that took me 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to the point where I beat him, again, I couldn't be touched. I was blocking everything. I was countering everything. I was dodging everything, and just like
you're in like the
this guy.
flow state.
Yeah, and you just feel like you feel like a god by the time you got it. You know.
Yeah, but people like make dumb arguments like, oh, I could argue that's not even like difficulty. That's artificial difficulty. And I'm like, well, if that's artificial difficulty, then I don't really understand what difficulty in a game is, because it's like all you're doing is like memorizing their movesets. And it's like, yeah, but like, what else is there? Like, you want riddles? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, if you're saying
you want to be able to slash at them 100 times and
yeah, like you could artificially, manufacture difficulty in a video game in a number of ways, but like I think the way they manufacture their difficulty is pretty damn good. And to that point too, like of the satisfaction feeling, I also think like the whole like you were on a run and you like made it really far and you lost your souls, like as stressful as that is and as much bullshit as that is, it's like you have stakes and you're invested and you're like,
right,
oh shit, I gotta get back there. And that's some of the best, like, all right, you're fucking good, like, and if you finally get it, it's like, oh fuck, thank God. You know,
exactly that feeling when you finally reach and be like, all right, I made it.
Yeah, like
get out of here.
That's not something that a lot of games can give you. And as much as it really pisses you off to like lose it, it's like a part of also like this ongoing theme too, like especially Dark Souls plays around with it, of the idea of hollowing and basically losing your mind and giving up. There's a theme for it within the game that's like built into the storytelling, the way the world's built, and essentially like the idea is like once the game is off, you've gone hollow. Like if you're not going to beat it, you leave the world like in its state and it never like evolves.
You're like this shell that wanders.
You essentially inhabit that shell. Yeah. So there's like a theme that extends even outside of it if you really want to break it down, and it's just like the way they do that is super brilliant. I was just watching this like breakdown on Bloodborne and the attention to detail on how even the hunters and the DLC, they all wear they all have like wrappings around their right leg.
Okay.
Because that's where you do your blood thing, or you hit it.
Oh.
And so there's like actual like purpose and intent behind like all of these hunters actually like doing this thing that you do, because that's where your puncture point is, and they need to like tourniquet it, and it's just like the level of thinking and how like in depth everything is just super wild.
Yeah, that's one thing about them for sure. That's like, man, they just, I don't know who thinks of these things, but they're so detailed, so like in the minutia of everything. Like there isn't a single pixel there that isn't there because of a reason, like a folklorish reason. Yeah. This body that you think is just in the corner because it's just set dressing. No, that person was like the prince of the area and like was put there because, Lord, Madge like threw them there, and just got this whole thing. But another aspect is that the bullshit dying. Sometimes people get pissed off with that because like you saw it happen to me the other day when I was just like fighting these very baseline enemies, but I got shot and thrown off of this building. Had I had 60,000 runes out there, I'd be pissed if I would have lost.
Be rough. Yeah, it's a game that, as much as it rewards you, it can punish you.
It punishes hard.
Yeah, like I've been in like mental states where I try to boot it up and I'm just like, I'm not here for this. Like I need something just casual. Like I can't focus. You need to be like, all right, I'm ready. You need to like gear yourself up a little bit and be like, all right, here we go. It's not for just like, I'm just gonna burn an hour or two on the couch and just mess around. It's like, nah. You do that a little bit on Elden Ring. I feel like you can
more relaxed.
Yeah, you can kind of pick what you want to take on. But like with Bloodborne and most of the Dark Souls games, it's kind of like, all right, I have to get through this thing or I'm just stuck. Yeah. Like, I'm not going anywhere if I don't beat this guy, But that's kind
of, we've talked about how Elden Ring is kind of the pinnacle. Well, maybe not pinnacle. Hopefully not. Hopefully they get better and better.
I think they still have more to offer,
They've found that balance of finding that difficulty and also like some of the designed difficulty versus the undesigned difficulty. So an example of that would be just simple fact that in Elden Ring, they usually put a grace, which is your save point, near your boss battle. Okay, right. So when you die, because you will, you don't have to go through a bunch of shit just to get back to your boss battle. Whereas in Bloodborne, it's like they put some of these boss battles like a good 5-minute run from wherever your last save point is. So,
yeah.
It's unnecessary, but it's like, okay, it sucks.
It does suck. It's uncalled for a lot of times. It was an interesting choice, like, I think, when they made it initially, because it was, like, just, I think, a choice made as, like, antithetical to, like, current trends. But I think they realized, like, it doesn't necessarily add anything.
Right.
It kind of makes it just, like, a pain in the ass to go and refight that. But I mean, when I first started playing those games, I thought it was like an interesting component, you know, because I was like, oh, you son of a, like, I gotta, and you kind of learn to accept it a little bit. And you can run past a lot of this stuff, but still, it's just like running past a bunch of stuff isn't necessarily like beneficial, you know. Once you realize I don't need to fight everything, I can just like
which essentially makes it seem like, oh, this is a waste of time then, if that's the case.
Exactly. That's where it kind of ends up. But before, I think they just thought you'd have to fight through it, which again is just total fuck you thing. Yeah. But we've talked about it many times where there's just moments in those games where you can literally picture the developer who came up with the scenario laughing in your face, being like, haha, like it's such a fuck you moment. Like, oh my god, I can't believe that. But then you can't help but to kind of laugh at the absurdity of it. And you're like, you did that.
Which is kind of what I do now. Like I'll run into like a boss or a scenario in which I just get destroyed. I just laugh about it. Like, oh, there's a developer out there who thought this was hilarious.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and there's like a little sense of humor to it. Like that's maybe a little sadistic, but anyways, where so far of your experiences, I know you've only got the 3, and Elden Ring's kind of hard to top, and Sekiro's pretty great in terms of what it does, but it's very like different. Where do you feel the Bloodborne experience is so far?
Well, I'll say this. I almost quit Bloodborne.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, because so for those who don't know, Bloodborne, unlike Elden Ring, unlike Sekiro, your weapon degrades over use. Okay, so I'm playing, I'm getting pretty good. You know, I'm getting, because it plays exactly like Elden Ring for the most part. Like the buttons, all that shit.
Yeah,
it's all the same, right?
Button layout and everything.
So I'm already coming from like understanding that whole stuff. So I'm just like getting through, killing people, dying whenever. Okay, fine, blah blah blah. So I get to the first bad guy, which is like that werewolf creature.
The cleric beast.
Yeah. Okay. I pretty much beat him. I think he killed me once. It was like some bullshit, but like I basically beat him the second time. Like whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Get through more of the game. I run up against
Gascoigne?
Yes.
Something like that.
I always forget his name.
It's hard to
Gaston. That's from
Gaston. Yeah, Gascoigne. Gascoigne, I think is his name, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so I get to this guy, and my weapon has been broken this entire time. And I asked you about it because I noticed at one point I was fighting a bad guy that used to take me 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it takes me 5 to take him down.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that the game gets harder as you go on. That's not the case. So I get to Gaston.
Yeah.
And I'm hitting him and it's doing nothing to him, right? So in my mind, I'm like, shit, do I need to level up to do this?
Yeah.
And first off, leveling up, I don't want to grind in the game, okay?
A little grinding's okay.
Well,
a
sure,
lot of grinding is just
the grinding
obnoxious.
that was going to be necessary for me to get strong enough to what I thought to beat him was going to be insane. I was like, I'm not doing this. So there's number 1. Number 2, part of the fight mechanic in Bloodborne is that you use your pistol. You have a melee weapon, you have a pistol in your other hand, okay?
Yeah.
You use your pistol, it doubles as your counter, okay?
Yeah.
Which is cool. Obviously, it's a potent way to fight a bad guy, but unlike in Elden Ring, unlike in Sekiro, it's consumable. So you only have so many opportunities in which you can counter a move, which is 20.
Yep.
You have 20 chances, and you have to time it right, which you usually don't.
Yeah.
So
it's very hard to hit.
I can't, I'm running out of bullets. my weapon is doing jack shit because it's broken. I don't know that. And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to sit here fucking grinding for bullets and health vials because unlike Sekiro, unlike Elden Ring, your health vials, you have to earn them. You don't just get a full row of them.
It's just very interesting choice.
So I'm like, dude, I don't have the energy, I don't have the time, I don't have to find the health vials, bullets, blah, 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 to do this. So I almost quit. I go in the game one last time just because I just wanted to fuck around on it, and I noticed a message finally that says, it was like the beginning of the game, your weapon's broken. And I was like, what? Your weapon's broken? What does that mean? I didn't
like when you booted it up?
Yeah, it was just like I booted it up and like started playing. I just noticed just the tiny little like prompt that's like your weapon's damaged.
And that's the only time it told you.
That's the only time I noticed because it's small on the screen. It doesn't like pop up.
I know, but just the fact that it's like you'd have to turn the game off and then turn it on to even get the message.
Yeah. So
it's like, oh, good choice.
Right. So I was like, what? And I think that's when I asked you. I was like, does your weapon break in the game? And I don't think you remembered or whatever. So
no, because you asked me if the game gets harder, and I was like, not like that, not from where you're at. And then you did ask about the weapon, and I said go to the weapon altar. That's I think I called it.
Yes.
But you were going to the altar, and it was like right next to it.
Yeah. Because you can't tell. The game doesn't have like a lot of flashy things that are like, this is interactive or whatever the word is. It doesn't do a lot of that.
It really doesn't.
That's sort of the psyche of like how difficult it is, because there's a lot of things they could do to help you and tell you like, hey, this is something to look at. They don't do it.
Yeah.
They don't say anything.
Well, even though like, the doors and the little windows and like people that you can interact with early on, it's like super discreet because the game is so monochromatic that like there's a little light here and it's like you wouldn't notice it, but then you realize like, oh, everything else is off. That's the only place where this light is. But yeah, it's subtlety is the name of the game. And if you're not looking at everything and clicking X, then you're not going to find out.
Right. So I finally figure out how to repair a weapon.
Yeah.
Which is what I needed this entire time. Go back. I'm back to, not only am I slashing guys in like 3 hits, the ones that were 3-hit kills are now 1 because I've been getting stronger. I've been leveling up. So I'm one-shotting all these people that I figured I would be one-shotting by now.
Yeah.
I get back to Gaston.
Just call him Gaston.
Gaston. I get back to him, and I absolutely dominate him.
Right.
Like, it's nothing. I'm countering everything. I'm dodging. I got the music box. He's like
got
playing
the confidence
that.
now.
I don't think he laid a hit on me on that finally. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now that I know I need to watch my health of my weapon, I can keep track of that and
Game changer.
Yeah, so it's ever since then I've been playing. But anyway, I love it. I love the Lovecraftian sort of like, it's very dark. Everything's weird. I came to the office that one day. I was like, bird dogs, dog birds, which is in reference to a point where there's a bird enemy, and there's a dog enemy, and at some point they merge. I don't know why, but you have dogs with the heads of birds, aka bird dogs, and you have birds with the head of dogs, aka dog birds.
Yeah,
and he's just a bizarro sort of thing in the world. Everything gets bizarre and weird.
It just keeps getting weirder.
Yeah, which I love. So I appreciate the game. I might like it more than Sekiro, though it's hard to say. It's hard to rank them.
Sekiro's got some of the best combat, kind of, on just how sharp it is. I think the story is okay in Sekiro. It's cool. It's a cool setting, but you kind of like it's a smaller world.
They all seem big to me, no matter how small the.
Yeah, I feel like Bloodborne's got one of the most interesting ones, just because it's like the gothic thing you've seen a few times, but they do it really, really well.
Yeah. And
then just how everything twists and keeps twisting and keeps kind of just getting weirder and weirder, and you can't pin it down. And the Lovecrafting stuff is already like, I feel like people do it, but kind of just like tip their toes in it.
Sure.
Like they really explored it in a way that like only From Software would, which.
Yeah, and it's got like a hint of like Tim Burton.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like
especially in the Hunters design. Like they always kind of got their weird top hats and stuff. Yeah, the aesthetic of it is like so cool. Even if it is so like monochromatic, it just is such a bizarre thing. And I love the villagers at the beginning because they're obviously like turning into beasts,
right.
But they're also like killing people who have turned to bestial, you know? And then the fact that it starts where you just feel like it's a werewolf thing, and then it just ends with like, this is cosmic horror, you know? You're like, what am I doing, you know? It's so crazy, and it's one of the hardest ones I think to truly pin down. Like the video I was watching before we started this was like a 40-minute like just a deep dive on what the story is, but really he admits like this is all just based on like my theory. Like some of these are you can say this happened and this person is here, but then he gets to the point where it's like, but we don't even know if these people are here at the same time, because some of these realms are existing in nightmares or in different levels of reality that we don't even know if they exist at the same time or not, you know? So it plays with all these different things. And
notorious from, because they don't give you much. I mean, the story is so hard to pin sometimes.
It's impossible. Literally, I would have no idea what happened in any of those games if it wasn't for the internet and people like that actually do lore deep dives and explain. Like I'm consistently lost and just in awe.
Yeah.
But that's what I love. I love coming into an area and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. What happened here?
Yeah, like something crazy happened here. And yeah, it's just a really wonderful world. I really wish they would make a second Bloodborne.
Ooh, yeah.
But I don't know if it's ever gonna happen.
Because it's the way it ends. I don't know how it ends. Don't tell me.
It's just people have been like asking for it forever, and From Software has never been like Bloodborne 2. It's happening. People still want a remake because that game runs only in 30 frames per second. You know, they made a Demon's Souls remake, and Bloodborne is like, for some people, that's like their favorite From Software game. Okay. They're like, I don't even care about these other ones.
Well, you were saying because the Bloodborne has a different philosophy, especially when, you know, again with the countering, you know, you have a limited amount of time you can block.
Yeah.
So, you know, the idea is that, well, with Elden Ring, you know, you turn people into people that block, that use shields and stuff, whereas in Bloodborne you can't just do that. You gotta dodge and get on your toes more.
It forces you to play more aggressive and to be
that too,
more like,
you get health every time if you get hit and then you hit other enemies, it builds back some of your health to the point where you could actually get your health back just from kicking ass.
Yeah, at least like about 80% if you really like did it right. No, I love that mechanic. I love the weapon art thing. They're not called weapon arts, but just the trick weapon stuff and how you can switch between the different move sets and in real time. And there's so many. I don't know how many you actually played with. It seems like you just stuck to the 2.
Yeah, I just have I mean, I might switch out and do the other shit, but like I don't know. I don't really care.
It's not that different. I mean, honestly, that main one you used is one of the best ones. Like some of the other ones are.
I fully upgraded it, so that's why I'm just like, I'm just gonna stay with you.
And I think it encourages you to do that more than it does like to switch them out. And but I think that combat mechanic was a lot of fun to play around with, even if it would get me into trouble a lot of times because I wanted to do like cool switch combos and shit. Yeah. But it just always was satisfying to do like light hit, switch to the heavy thing, and then switch again, and it's like very cool. Yeah, it's kind of, you feel like it takes a lot of inspiration from a lot of different areas, that game, but it's so uniquely like its own thing.
Right.
I just like really love it. And as much as I love the Dark Souls, I feel like Bloodborne's like right there. You know?
I mean, I don't think I'm going to play the Dark Souls games.
Just try 3.
Do I have to know the first 2 stories?
Not at all.
Am I going to be lost?
No, it's thematically similar. You're going to be lost, yes, because you're always lost. But 3 is good. It plays solid. It's not as hard as the other two. Good, interesting characters, interesting like set pieces, cool bosses. Really, really cool.
I'd love an art book of just Demon Soul art.
Yeah.
Like if you could just get like turnarounds of the bosses, and their enemies, and like the
even just early
art.
concept art of like how they evolved would be really cool.
That'd be incredible.
There's got to be stuff like that out there.
I wonder.
Yeah. But I think if you're going to play any of them, Demon Souls 3 is a great entry point. It doesn't have as much jank. A lot of people shit on Dark Souls 2. I played it. It was okay. It's definitely like the ugly stepchild of the franchise, though.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Apparently Miyazaki wasn't involved.
Okay, you're gonna say those aren't. This isn't a studio that puts out duds. You know, they're pretty true to who they are.
Yeah, it's not a dud. I just think they tried some different things, and it's got some issues, but some things are interesting. I didn't hate it, but it gets a lot of shit. And then other people like really defend it and say it's the best of the 3. But I don't know about that.
Polarizing.
I don't think I could say that. Yeah. But it's worth dipping your toes in there, I think.
Too scared, man.
Yeah, nah. Demon Souls 3 you can handle. It won't you know.
Was it a PS4 game?
Yes.
Because I'm not trying to go beyond like.
Well, they did a remake with with Dark Souls.
Oh. Okay.
So it's a minor remake. And then they did the Demon Souls.
Demon Souls is another one.
Like full upgrade remake. And that one I still haven't played. I started it and I was just like, I don't think I can do this right now. They're games you gotta gear yourself for.
Yeah, they're not for the lighthearted or for the
casual.
For the pussies.
Yeah. Get good, scrub.
I don't know. I think that's enough for today.
Covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna get some of our friends on to talk at some point.
Are you trying to do a trio?
I think a trio would be nice. I think it'd be cool for you to talk with my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
He'd be fun to debate.
Oh, okay.
Because I want to get into some more contentious shit.
Meet him for the first time on the podcast. And just argue with him about stuff.
His beliefs.
Yeah. What do you think as a human?
Yeah.
But
get some of our friends on here to kind of, just talk. People want to get on. People have been asking.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. But all right, I guess that's it for today.
All right.
Bye.